man, a dog, and a cabin in the remote Utah wilderness. Sounds peaceful, right? But what happens when the line between the living and the dead starts to blur? What Jack found in the snow could change everything. Stay with us, because sometimes what comes back isn't really what left. To get the full experience, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and brace yourself for a journey into the unknown. Jack lived alone in a remote cabin deep in the Utah wilderness. He had moved there for solitude, trading city noise for the quiet hum of nature. His only company was Max, a black Labrador who had been by his side for 7 years. Max wasn't just a pet. He was family, a loyal companion who had seen Jack through some of the hardest times in his life. On a freezing December evening, the two were sitting by the fireplace when Max suddenly perked up, his ears standing straight. A low growl rumbled in his throat as he stared at the front door. "What is it, boy?" Jack asked, standing to look out the window. "Nothing, just snow falling gently over the dark forest." But before Jack could sit back down, Max bolted for the door. The dog barked furiously, pawing at the wood. When Jack opened it, Max took off into the night, disappearing into the trees. "Max, come back," Jack shouted. But the dog didn't stop. Jack grabbed a flashlight and followed, his boots crunching through the fresh snow. He could just make out Max's tracks, leading deeper and deeper into the woods. The freezing wind bit at his face as he called for his dog, but his voice was swallowed by the night. After 100 yards, the tracks abruptly ended. No scuffle, no sign of where Max might have gone, just an empty patch of snow. Jack stood there, breath visible in the frigid air, a heavy silence pressing down on him. He called Max's name one last time, but only the echo of his own voice answered. Jack spent the next 3 days searching. He combed the woods, called every local shelter, and left food out on the porch in case Max found his way home. But as the days turned into weeks, hope faded. Jack told himself that Max had probably fallen victim to the harsh wilderness or a predator. It broke his heart, but he had to move on. 3 weeks later, during a brutal snowstorm, Jack was startled awake by a noise of faint scratching at the front door. He sat up, heart pounding, and listened. The scratching came again, louder this time. He grabbed his shotgun and approached the door cautiously. "Who's there?" The answer was a soft whine. Jack froze. It couldn't be. He flung the door open, and there he was, Max. "Max, oh my God, buddy," Jack cried, kneeling to hug his dog. Max was thin, his coat dirty and matted, but it was undeniably him. The scar above his left eye, the way his ears perked at Jack's voice, it was all there. Jack pulled him inside and closed the door against the storm. For the first few days, Jack was overjoyed. He fed Max hearty meals and let him sleep by the fire. But as time went on, something about Max seemed off. For one, he didn't wag his tail anymore, not even when Jack spoke to him. He would just stare, his head tilted slightly, as if he didn't quite understand what Jack was saying. His movements were stiff, almost mechanical, and his eyes, once warm and expressive, seemed darker, emptier. Then there was the night Jack dropped a plate in the kitchen. The loud crash startled him, but Max didn't even flinch. He just sat there, staring at Jack, unblinking. Jack tried to shake the feeling that something was wrong. "He's been through a lot," he told himself. "He just needs time." But everything changed when Jack found the footprints. One morning, he stepped outside to chop wood and noticed tracks in the snow leading from the forest to his front door. But they weren't paw prints, they were human, barefoot, deep, and deliberate. The tracks stopped at his door and didn't lead away. That night, Jack locked every door and window. He kept his shotgun by the bed, unable to shake the feeling that something was watching him. Around 2 a.m., he woke to a scratching sound. It was coming from his bedroom door. "Maxie," called out, his voice trembling. The scratching stopped. Then, a sound that made his blood run cold. A low, guttural voice. rasping his name, Jock, his breath caught in his throat as the door creaked open. Standing there was Max, or what looked like Max, but his body was wrong. His legs slightly too long, his head cocked at an impossible angle. His mouth stretched into a grotesque grin, revealing jagged, too sharp teeth. Jack reached for his shotgun, but before he could fire, the creature lunged at him with inhuman speed. The next morning, a group of hunters found Jack's cabin abandoned. The door was wide open, snow drifting in. Inside, they found no sign of a struggle, only a single, black dog collar lying by the fireplace. Outside, human footprints led from the cabin into the woods, vanishing into the endless expanse of trees.